Rwanda is preparing for future food challenges as it predicts its population could increase to more than 15 million people by the year 2030. The country's agricultural challenges are real, with only 51.41% of the country being arable, according to the World Bank. As a result, the Rwanda Institute for Conservation Agriculture was opened in July 2019 to educate Rwandan students with knowledge and skills to create cutting-edge solutions to food problems in the country. The Rwanda Institute for Conservation Agriculture, RICA for short, sits on 1,300 hectares of land in Buskira in the country's eastern province, developed by the Howard Buffett Foundation into its present structure. Here, students are taught to contribute to food security and food safety by working through various agricultural processes, from poultry to pigs to cows.
This is our milking parlor, so this is where we milk the cows.
A natural lake nearby is the Institute's major water supply, and even animal waste is plowed back as manure on the fields. The rudimentary processes of smallholder operations are a must in the students' first year. They're given small pieces of land to cultivate and chickens to rear the local way, because in the end, they will be working with rural Rwandan farmers.
We don't expect them to be smallholder farmers when they graduate, but they will be providing services to smallholder farmers, and we expect them to be buying produce from those smallholder farmers. So we want them to understand the experiences of those smallholder farmers, because we're very interested in increasing the quality of life for those smallholder farmers also.
250 students are currently studying at the Institute, and the scholarship provided by the Howard Buffett Foundation is highly competitive, with just 2.8% of those who apply gaining admission. Learning takes place in aerated classrooms, and the only rooms with air conditioners are where meat from animals on the Institute are processed and stored. The initiative in Rwanda is one that was once discussed by other African countries as well.
This initiative was floated for Africa, but Rwanda moved quickly. And so when they evaluated, which other place to be other than Rwanda, given, governance, etc., issues. So I think sometimes it's just that other African countries, we delay in our consideration. Maybe the decision processes are much longer. And sometimes when you have a person of action like Howard Buffett, he moves quickly. So sometimes we need to just, grab the bull by the horn, quickly sometimes.
Some alumni of the Institute have been employed there and are given different responsibilities.
The change to the job market is that when you are a student here, you are allowed to make mistakes because you're a student, you're learning. But when you get into a job market, then it is very serious. So whatever I have to do it perfectly and in a very good condition.
The goal of the Institute is for graduates to impact lives and preserve the country's critical resources. From Buskira, Rwanda, Amarachi Ubani, Channel Television News. Well, I'm back in Lagos now. But following up on my visit to the Rwanda Institute of Conservation Agriculture, I had a longer conversation with the Institute's Deputy Vice Chancellor of Academic Affairs, Dr. Yerokun, on his new role and his hopes for the rest of Africa. So you're a Nigerian living in Rwanda. How did you end up here at RICA?
Interesting. Yes. I had been working in Zambia over the past 30 years in the education sector. And when RICA advertised the position for Deputy Vice Chancellor, on LinkedIn by chance I saw it. I applied and I was called for an interview, and I think we agreed that it would be a good fit for me and that they could use my skills. So I joined RICA in October 2023.
Before we got, talking during this interview, we were talking, behind the scenes, and you mentioned that it's been a really long time since, you came home to Nigeria. I'm just wondering, whether you ever think of coming back home, if you ever think of, doing the same things that you're doing here back in Nigeria?
Well, I mean, where, opportunity, occurs, one could always do that. As I indicated to you previously, I mean, I had worked in Zambia for about 33 years. Before that, having gone to school in the US, I worked there for a couple of years, but always wanted to come back to Africa. Incidentally, I applied to a number of institutions in Nigeria at the time, but I didn't get any feedback, nothing positive. And that's how my career in Zambia started. But, God directs us sometimes to where we could be of best value. And so I think, that has also aided my own growth there. The Rwanda Institute for Conservation and Growth is a unique institution, very experiential in approach, a very hands-on based, also technologically advanced. And I think most of the African countries, in fact, all of us could use a model, like this. I mean, I would be glad as the opportunity arises to discuss this kind of concept with counterparts in Nigeria, because I'm Nigerian and I love the country. I just haven't worked there over the years. Recently, Lautech expanded into my own hometown, Iseyin, their School of Agriculture. And it was one of the things in my mind that on my next visit, to visit with them at Lautech and explain sort of what is going on here. Perhaps we could have some exchange visits for some people to see, and one thing could lead on to another.
So this is an initiative of the Rwandan government. And I'm just wondering, whether other African leaders, why other African leaders are not keen into this.
Why is it difficult? I'm not quite sure, because frankly, this initiative was floated for Africa, but Rwanda moved quickly. And so when they evaluated, which other place to be other than Rwanda, given, governance, etc., issues. So I think sometimes it's just that other African countries, we delay in our consideration. Maybe the decision processes are much longer. And sometimes when you have a person of action like Howard Buffett, he moves quickly. So sometimes we need to just, grab the bull by the horn.
You think it's possibly because Rwanda is an agrarian economy?
Certainly. There is a credit, to that. Maybe they are proactive sufficiently. The government is proactive sufficiently. But I think also the foundation also found the terrain here is a challenging terrain. And so the need is also, huge. And so this institution is set up to kind of produce experts who can really help.
So I know the plan is to, eventually have students coming from East African region, but I'm wondering if, you also see this expanding to possibly Nigeria.
Look here, we are here, and, the hope is that we would, promote that kind of thinking. Yes, the region initially, but it's also possible that beyond the region, we may find, people who can afford sending their children here more than within the region itself, quite frankly. And so I think it's only a matter of time before this is opened up, to more people. It is resource intensive because it is experiential, hands-on. And so in terms of staffing, to ensure that we reach each student. And so that's why the growth also is going to be measured. But I believe that in a matter of time, we will open this up beyond the region.